I look at this as, the start of something. We really have a big task right now in terms of adding to the good players that we have already. We haven't changed our pitch much at all. We were, recruiting just like we had the job. I think if we had a win in it halfway, you can't do a good job. We wanted to make sure that we at least located guys that would be available.
And even the Oscars applauded the decision of Brian Ellerbe as head coach. All right, guys, let me give you my breakdown first. Brian Ellerbe did a great job this year. I think, I didn't think Michigan would win 25 games. I didn't think they could win the Big Ten tournament. But just because he did a good job, I don't feel he should have got the permanent job. I feel this was a cheap decision by Michigan. I feel it came down to dollars. Brian Ellerbe was a fallback candidate, and if Tommy Amaker would have come for less money, or Kelvin Sampson, that would have been the guy they went with. I really don't believe that Tom Goss's first choice was Brian Ellerbe. I really don't believe it was the right choice either, but since he's a head coach, I'm going to support him. And Rob, what was your feelings on this?
Justin, my feelings weren't that strong. I really thought he had done a good job up until the UCLA game, and prior to that game, he did a great job with the team going 25-9, and at that point, I felt he deserved the job. But my thinking was that if he was going to get the job, Tom Goss would have gave it to him before the loss. It makes no sense to give the man the job after he has the biggest loss of the season. So obviously he wasn't the man he was looking for. Like you said, it was a cheap decision, but I think it's pretty good. I mean, he's cheap.
All right. Well, for a bargain, we have our new head coach. Kelly, what type of job do you see Brian Ellerbe doing here?
Well, next year, the fans just have to be supportive of him. We already know Traylor's going to the pros, so that's just about shoots the team in the foot right there. Ellerbe, instead of being in San Antonio, he needs to be out recruiting. Shamil Swift has yet to sign. Corey Leon Young has yet to sign. Those are two good recruits we really need to get our hands on. We still have the backcourt of Lewis Bullock and Robbie Reed. We could also add another point guard that would have to do a great job. If we could get a true point, that's exactly what this team needs. Ellerbe needs to get some recruits in here now. He needs to rebuild this team, because I say for about the next 2 years, Michigan basketball will be down.
That's a good point, Kelly. Brian Ellerbe did a good job this year, but he didn't do it with his players. Steve Fisher brought this team into the University of Michigan, recruited all of the players, and Brian Ellerbe showed he can coach a good team. Now what he has to show is that he can get a lot out of a team which maybe doesn't have as much potential, and even more importantly, that's not going to get it done. He's going to have to go out and recruit the big talent, because let's be honest here, Brian Ellerbe, for 4 straight years, goes 19-10 in the NCAA tournament. He's not going to be around very long, because the fans here at Michigan, the alumni here at Michigan, expect to have a program which can contend for a Final Four berth. So now the pressure's on Brian Ellerbe. Certainly he got the job, but his job has just begun. And Rob, next year, do you think what's a realistic goal? What would make Brian Ellerbe look like a good coach next year?
A 500 season, I think, would make him look like a good coach. Unless we get Swift or some of these other guys Kelly was speaking of. 500, it seems really low for a Michigan team, but this team has no talent coming back besides Lewis Bullock. No one is down low in the post. There's no one for Bullock to feed off of, so he's probably going to be double, triple teamed, and no one else to turn to for scoring. So 500, I think is realistic.
27 games next year?
Maybe. He may have to take 40 shots.
Well, today's show, by the way, is a call-in show, and you can call us at 647-2641. I repeat, the number is 647-2641 to talk about, your thoughts on the Brian Ellerbe selection, Robert Tro's decision to go pro, or tonight's national championship game. Once again, the number is 647-2641. And Kelly, as we leave with closing thoughts on Ellerbe, in short, should a good job mean a head coaching job here?
Honestly, yes. Well, honestly, I'm not sure. I can't really answer that question, Justin, but I was a big Ellerbe supporter. You can't overlook the 25-9 record. It was up until that UCLA game, I just thought, no, this man should not be our coach. In his biggest coaching moment, he could not coach this team. UCLA's zone was just too much, and I thought the UCLA game just really cost him his job.
Right.
Yeah, I think as we wrap up the Brian Ellerbe thing, he will not be fully accepted, I think we would all agree, until he reaches a Final Four, similar to Lloyd Carr, what Lloyd Carr did in football. He had to get to the Rose Bowl to win the admiration of the Michigan fans. He was able to do that this year. He put all the doubters aside, including myself, and took us to a place, a lot of people didn't think we could go. Brian Ellerbe has to do the same thing. Until Michigan reaches the Final Four, this Brian Ellerbe will not have, I don't think, the respect of the Michigan fans that he can bring the Michigan program back to prominence. Now, unfortunately for Michigan fans, if you didn't like the selection of Brian Ellerbe, the news just didn't get any better. Because last Friday, March 27th, that Michigan probably lost their best player all season long, their most consistent player, and certainly their leader, when Robert Traylor decided to declare himself for the NBA draft. As we take a look at the press conference from his home school of Murray Ray.
I did a good job. I've been scared of anything before, but right now I'm sitting here and I'm shaking and I'm trembling, and it's like something new. So I've talked to a lot of people. I talked to Coach Ellerby this morning, not this morning, yesterday, excuse me. I talked to Coach Fisher. I talked to my teammates, and everybody wished me the best of luck. A lot of great guys. Lewis Bullock, Maceo Baston, Gerard Ward. Everybody I've played with has been special to me. I give a lot of credit to those guys, for helping me become a better player also. Just out here right now, it's my mother. She's she couldn't make it. She's in Ohio. But she's fine, and I'll talk to her when I get home. And we'll have a chance to be, we always set out to be. I can do things for her also. Well, I really thought a lot about how different it would have been. I don't think I'd have had the great opportunity I had this year, do some of the things that I had a chance to do. And just had a chance to play with another great group of guys. Probably the best team I've been on since I was at Michigan. I think making a prediction that I was going to be on a 2-year stay at Michigan was probably the worst decision or the worst comment I've ever made in my life. From the time I said it till now, I still regret it. I didn't go to Michigan just to play basketball at all. I went to Michigan to, first of all, get an education. Second of all, become a better man than what I was at the time. And then probably play basketball last. As far as the Final Four went, like I said, I never regret saying it. I thought we had a great opportunity, a great chance to really do that. And I'll never regret that at all. We didn't get to the point where we should have been playing tomorrow. But at the same time, it was a great year, and I think we did a lot of things that a lot of people didn't consider us to be able to do.
And his family. I mean, this is a guy who realized his dream. Will go to the NBA, definitely be a top 10 pick. Rob, but the main question here is, what kind of hole does the loss of Robert Traylor leave in the middle for Michigan?
Oh, it leaves a 6'9", 300-pound hole. Michigan, like I said before, with the loss of Maceo coupled with this, they have no threat down low. I mean, who are we going to go to? Peter Vignier? I thought he was a project. Why doesn't he play? Well, anyway, we have no one down low, no one to turn to. It's sad that he left, but honestly, I think this was probably the best decision for his career. He had nothing more to gain from staying another year at Michigan, I think, except for education, of course. But basketball-wise, the team was losing so much talent. If anything, his stock would have went down from people double and triple teaming him. So I think he should have left, and he made a good decision.
And Kelly, in that piece, he talked about, he almost left last year, and with the decision that the ramifications that would have had. How much do you think Robert Traylor benefited from returning to Michigan for his junior year?
Greatly, like maybe $1 million greatly. Give it to Traylor. He had a phenomenal end of the year. He carried Michigan on his shoulders to the NIT championship last year. But had Traylor left, I think he probably would have been a mid to late first-round pick, maybe early second at most. But I think Traylor definitely came back, improved his game, worked on his foul shot. If he could just get a consistent about 8 to 10 range foot, 8 to 10 foot jumper, I think they would even improve his game even more. He's got all the tools, capabilities, everything you need for a big man in the NBA.
When you think back to last year, we had another junior leaver like Maurice Taylor, but he was really the total opposite of Traylor. He didn't do anything. The team didn't go anywhere, and he didn't lead. Now I think when you look at Robert Traylor, I mean, this is a guy who really took the leadership role seriously this year, realized that this was a team that could have really gone down the tubes despite all their talent. There was a lot of adversity that this guy faced. You think back to his freshman year with the accident. Now you think this year Fisher's fired. He said he didn't want to be here at the beginning of the year, but he took that as a challenge, and he gave Michigan a good season, a season that a lot of people, as we said earlier, didn't think was possible. And we talk about the job Ellerby did, but there's no question if Traylor doesn't take on the leadership role that he did, Michigan is probably, at best, a bubble NCAA tournament team rather than the Big Ten tournament champions and a team which looked like they would have done a lot of damage. Now, another person also had a big decision to make. Well, it really shouldn't have been a decision. Lewis Bullock. We had a chance to speak with Lewis, and he told us his thoughts on his future NBA plans, on what he felt also on the decision of Robert Traylor, and also on the selection of Brian Ellerby. Let's take a look at that footage.
There was never really any doubt. Just had to see if Ellerby was going to come back. Well, I mean,
it's just a better situation for me to stay.
can you describe the feelings you're feeling for Robert right now, knowing that he's going to finally realize his dream of getting to the NBA?
I'm happy for him. I mean, we came in together as friends. We had pretty much the same goals in life as basketball. I'm happy to see that one of my close friends can have a chance to, pursue his dreams. And, at the same time, I mean, it makes me want to work hard, knowing that he's about to do that and achieve what he wanted to. So, but I'm happy for him. I mean, it's a big day for the future of this campus.
Right. Yeah. What do you think? If you were an NBA GM, where would you take Robert Traylor? Do you think he should be a top 10 pick?
I mean, I'm biased. I've been his teammate. I would take him first. But I mean, the selection process goes on a certain way. But I mean, I would take him first. I mean, just what he brings to the team, the leadership, and all that. And I mean, I like him as a person. So I mean, all those things factor in. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't go in the top 10.
And finally, can you comment on the selection of Ellerby? You must have been relieved, happy at the same time.
Oh, I mean, I was happy. I mean, it's good for the guys that are there now. We wouldn't have to play for another coach. I mean, I think that he did an excellent job this year, and he earned himself the job, and I think that it helps us out so we can get things rolling early this year rather than getting sidetracked.
So the future for Michigan basketball is still bright.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people will probably count us out again, so which they always do. So I mean, we look forward to taking on the challenge and see what we can do with it.
Lewis, thanks for your time.
And so Lewis Bullock decides to return to the University of Michigan rather than enter the CBA. I mean, NBA. but Lewis talks about, coming back. But Rob, I got to ask you, how could this even be a decision after the game he had against UCLA? He's not really regarded as a first-round pick.
Right. If you're not a first-rounder, and especially if you're an underclassman, there's no way you should go pro. I mean, look at the precedents that was set by Scotty Thurman. I mean, what happened to that guy? Where is he at? Well, anyway.
Gas the other day.
Oh, really?
Oh, you're right.
Scotty, wherever you are, we're saying hi to you. But anyway, Bullock, he really had a poor game. I think that put a stamp on his season for a bad season, although it was pretty good statistically. But you're always reminded of the last thing someone does. So, Lewis, good decision to stay.
Kelly, we're not knocking Lewis Bullock. I mean, in terms of what he's done at Michigan, he's had a great career. He's been the leading scorer 3 straight years, and he's probably, in my opinion, the best three-point shooter in the country. But, he's definitely the guy they're going to build around next year. So that brings me to a question for you. Is he going to score more points, or is he going to score less because teams are going to be so focused on him next year?
Well, we'll get to see just how great of a shooter Lewis Bullock is. I think he'll score more points. Defenses will be trying to collapse on him, but Lewis has such a quick release and such a great jump shot. I don't think they'll be able to hold him down. I look for Lewis to pick his points up to about 20, 22 points a game because we're definitely going to need his shooting next year.
Yeah, Lewis, certainly a great perimeter shooter. He's probably going to have to put the ball on the floor, show his ability to drive if he's ever going to succeed at the next level. And I think another thing NBA scouts are going to want to see next year, Robbie reads the point. I think Lewis Bullock, if he's going to make the NBA, might be a point guard because he's 6'1", 6'2", and you just don't see those two guards, in the NBA that small. So if he can show an ability to put on the floor, maybe run an offense, I think that could help Lewis Bullock's career. But I mean, as I said, I don't really see Lewis Bullock as much of a pro player. I think he's had a great career at Michigan. I mean, he's definitely not been a bust. He's done everything that the school's asked for him. And if he can be the leader next year, in terms of statistically, and also in terms of, be like a silent leader type, I think Michigan can get back to the NCAA tournament, but it's all predicated on Lewis Bullock having a huge year. And, Rob, you have to wonder what a guy like this thinks, though, when Robert Traylor leaves. Part of him has to be happy, as you said, but part of him also has to be like, God, now it's just me. What am I going to do?
Yeah, he has to be thinking, who am I going to pass the ball to? Lewis Bullock's had a great career. Like you said before, it's going to be very hard for him to make that jump to the next level. He has to improve in several areas of his game, including defensively, because he gets beat a lot. I mean, did you see Aaron Davis? He hurt himself. He beat him so bad. But other than that, you know, Lewis is a great player, great career at Michigan, but NBA is pretty lofty for him right now.
Yeah, Kelly, the feelings of Lewis Bullock for LRB seeming to be relieved that he came back. Do you think a lot of the team is like that?
I think they are. They finally bring some stability in this Michigan program that really hasn't had stability since the firing of Fisher, at least with the LRB being the coach. They know the system, what they expect. They know what they're going to get from the coaching staff. Now, the only last thing for LRB to do is add to that coaching staff.
Yeah, and, you know, of course, we got the reaction from Lewis Bullock, but this was basically Robert Traylor's day, a great day for Robert. And we were able to get a few words from Robert, which we'll show you here coming up, on his, you know, jump to the NBA, the adjustment off the court, and also a look back at some of his high moments at Michigan. Let's take a look at that footage.
Overjoyed. There aren't really too many words that you can say to describe the moment. Just grateful I had the opportunity to make that decision, and hopefully things will work out the right way.
It was a relatively quick decision. Last year, I remember you declared in like May. This year, you know, it came pretty quick. Was it an easy decision for you?
It wasn't easy. I think last year I had a better opportunity to really sit down and think about it than a year ago. It was one of the things I didn't want to do, but I kind of forced myself into saying I would, due to the fact of some things that was going on. Right.
Yeah. You obviously said you would consider it more if LRB returned, but obviously, what was in the end the deciding factor for you, which pushed you maybe to the NBA?
I think in the end I had to do what was best for myself and my family. And I think Coach LRB knows that that was what was most important to myself, and that's what I have to take care of first.
As you move on to the next level, do you think it's adjustment more on the basketball court or off it?
I think it's off the basketball court. I think the biggest adjustment is from the mental standpoint. It's more of a business now than it is a game. You have to get ready and prepare for that.
You know, this was your best year probably in Michigan, both personally and as the team. What do you think the highest moment, you know, of your career? Was it this year?
Yeah, winning the Big Ten tournament. I think we had a phenomenal run. Just played great basketball as a team. I think that was really good.
Better than the Duke win?
Yeah, I think that might have been a little bit better. You know, going, I mean, just be a great Purdue team to get to that point. I think that was great.
You know, Robert, you meant so much to Michigan over your 3-year career. You've improved greatly each year, and we wish you nothing but luck in the NBA.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chris.
Definitely an Oscar Award-winning decision by Robert Traylor. You know, you know, when I went to this decision, you know, I went to the press conference. You know, I was a little skeptical about Robert leaving for the NBA. Probably a little selfish because I wanted him back at Michigan next year because we're just not going to be as good without him. But seeing the joy that, you know, Robert felt when he made this decision, seeing he's finally going to realize his dream, and also seeing the hope, the sense of hope that he brought to the Murray Wright community. You know, you see all these kids, it gives them someone to shoot for. You know, if Robert Traylor can make it, so can I. And it was really a great moment to be at. And I was really thankful I had the opportunity to be there the day Robert Traylor declared for the NBA. Rob?
Yeah, I think part of that, Justin, was a lot of the motivation behind him actually doing a press conference at Murray Wright instead of Michigan. I think this guy shows that he's very compassionate and hasn't forgot where he's come from. The people at Murray Wright love him, and rightfully so. He's probably their most famous alum right now, but I think this shows how good of a person he really is and how tough of a decision this was for him. To him, I think it was probably more than about money. You know, he doesn't even have an agent yet.
That's a good point, Rob. I mean, Kelly, Robert Traylor, as we said, encountered a lot of difficult situations over his Michigan career. The accident freshman year, broke his arm, couldn't play. I mean, you think about this year, Fisher fired, he was angry. Last year, all the allegations with his aunt in the lease. So, and this is a guy who just never showed, you know, frustration, always handled himself with such class.
Yeah, what more can you say? He's been a perfect gentleman. He's the so-called Michigan man. He's perceived himself with dignity on the court. Off the court, he's had a few problems, but he's still a young kid. Everybody's going to have their problems. But Robert Traylor has been a model citizen, and as we saw a lot of the little kids in Detroit, I think the quote I always remember was that little kid going up to him like, "I'm going to be with you one day in the NBA, big man."
I mean, I don't know if he agreed with him, but I mean, well, I mean, as we said, Robert Traylor, I mean, being there, you saw him, he would sign every autograph. He was very compassionate. He was very, you know, he's very professional, handles all the interviews he did with class, all the questions with class. And, I mean, how could you not root for this guy? And as I said, he's worked hard. He's improved at Michigan all of his 3 years. And I'm sure if he continues to improve, he's going to be a great success in the NBA. And we wish him nothing but the best of luck. Robert, we'll miss you. But, Kelly, you had a chance, you know, with all the stuff going down here in Michigan, you had a chance then to go back out and one more time be out and about. and see what all the community here in Michigan thought of all these recent decisions.
Yeah, for last time, we asked you, the students, how you felt about Michigan basketball. This time we went to East Quad. We asked y'all 3 simple questions. 1, how did you feel about the selection of Brian Ellerbe as the head coach? 2, how do you think the team will do next year without Robert Traylor? And 3, most importantly, who's going to win, Utah or Kentucky?
And 4, why are you living in East Quad?
Ooh. Let's go to that footage.
Kelly Russell reporting for Out and About. We're getting student opinion on the Michigan basketball team. Your name and year is?
My name is Marshall Myers II, and I'm a freshman.
Okay. And how do you feel about the selection of Brian Ellerbe as the head coach?
I agree with the choice. I think it was a good selection. I think under the circumstances, he came through and did an excellent coaching job this year. He deserves the job.
And how do you think the team will do next year without Robert Traylor?
Not so good. I mean, they need a big man real bad. I hope they pick somebody up out of high school. So I heard there's a lot of top prospects that haven't decided where they're going next year. I hope some of them, or a couple of them, at least decide they're going to possibly come here to Michigan. But if not, it's going to look real. It's going to be ugly next year.
Okay. Who's going with Utah or Kentucky?
I'm going with Utah. They impressed me the way they handled North Carolina. They had North Carolina game totally off. They play fundamental game. You can't beat fundamental game at that kind of level. So I'm going with Utah.
And your name is?
Jimmy Keys, and I'm a freshman.
Okay. And how do you feel about the selection of Brian Ellerbe as the head coach?
Again, I have to agree. I think it was a wise decision. This year, he really demonstrated that he had a lot of coaching techniques that U of M needs, and I think he deserves the job.
Okay. How do you think the team is going to fare next year without Traylor?
Well, I think next year the team will step up and play a little harder. It's going to be more difficult, and I think there's a lot of talent in Detroit, so I'm pretty sure U of M is going to pick up somebody. So I'm looking for big things next year.
Okay. Utah or Kentucky?
I'm going to have to go with Kentucky. Yeah. Utah just doesn't have what it takes. Sorry, I disagree there.
Okay, I like this. And your name and years?
My name is Sean Herring. I'm a first year.
Okay. And how do you feel about the selection of Brian Ellerbe?
I think it was a pretty good choice. He's done pretty well this year. I believe they won the Big Ten championship and the tournament, and they won the Hawaii tournament too. And I just think that he did a pretty good job. But the reason why he lost the NCAA is because they just didn't have the talent. It had nothing to do with the coaching job.
So how do you think they're going to fare next year without Traylor?
They're probably going to do even worse without Traylor because he was like the MVP. You know, they really have a tough recruiting job this year.
Okay. Utah or Kentucky?
I'm going to have to go with Utah.
Utah? Okay.
They beat North Carolina. They're like number 1 like all year.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Go. Kelly Russell reporting for Out and About. We're getting student opinion on the Michigan basketball team. Your name and years?
My name is Ushimba Buford. I'm a junior, about to become a graduating senior.
Okay. And how do you feel about the selection of Brian Ellerbe as the head coach?
I think it's a step in the right direction for the program because under Steve Fisher, there's allegations of some wrongdoing. So I hope with this becomes more of a clean program, and hopefully they get some great players in, and we continue domination for this millennia to come.
Excuse me. And how do you feel about Robert Traylor leaving?
It's a good decision for him. I think he can play and make a great impact at the next level. Hopefully he just keep his mind tight and just handle his business, and we'll go from there.
And who's going to win, Utah or Kentucky?
I would go with Utah, but I gotta go with Kentucky because they got some nice athletes, and they out there running. And I don't know if Utah going to keep up with. Tubby Smith has been doing a great job all year with, I guess, the players though that Patino run in.
Okay. And your name and years?
My name is Marlon Morgan, and I'm a senior.
And how do you feel about Brian Ellerbe being nominated and being named head coach?
I think it was a good move by Tom Goss. He stepped up to the challenge this year, and when everyone doubted, him and the team. He eventually won the Big Ten championship, and he got them into the second round of the tournament. So I think it was a good
Okay. How do you think the team will do next year without Trey?
I really don't know because they definitely have to get a good recruiting class this year because with Traylor leaving and Maceo Bastion leaving and Gerard Ward leaving, that's going to leave a lot of open spots and people have to step up. So, it's good for Traylor, but I think it's hurting the team.
Okay. Utah or Kentucky?
I'm going to go with Kentucky just because I like what Tubby Smith has done with Kentucky Wildcats this year. And, their press, I think, is just outstanding.
Okay, thank you. Let's see what
All right, well, there seemed to be a prevailing sentiment that the Brian Ellerby decision was a good one, Rob. But there also seemed to be a sentiment that happy days are not ahead for Michigan.
I don't know how you could be a rational thinking person and obviously think that Michigan could do well next year. Like many other people say, there are big holes in the Michigan starting lineup now, and if we get no one to fill those holes, it's going to be horrible.
And Kelly, of course, the other question, there seemed to be some pretty good split on Utah or Kentucky, as we will get to that soon, but...
In my opinion, I think it's a coin toss. You've seen what Utah just did to dominate Carolina. I was about as sick after watching that game as I was watching Michigan UCLA. The inside play of Michael Dolak, Lee Jensen, and Hano Matola just completely frustrated Anton Jamison, Mokhtar Njai, which I still don't know why he was even out there, fouled out with like 18 minutes left in the second half. And then you've seen Kentucky's great run against Stanford, and then they had the great run against Duke. How can you go wrong against betting on the Wildcats?
Rob, we had a great game, though, in the first game of the Final Four. Kentucky-Stanford will go down as one of the better Final Four games of this decade.
Oh, yes. That one went all the way to the wire 2 times. No, you never knew who was going to win that game. I mean, who would have guessed that, Stanford can come back and force overtime with Arthur Lee hitting another big 3. This guy's been unbelievable in the tournament. I really gave him no credit, before the tournament, but he's obviously a great player from Stanford. And Stanford will be ranked really high next year with so many people returning.
Yeah, we'll be sure. We figured to be talking a lot about the Stanford Cardinal next year. But, Kelly, as we're going to take a look at the Stanford-Kentucky highlights. Kelly, you're going to do this package. The first Final Four game, it was 5 o'clock this Saturday, and, of course, the winner moves on to tonight's game, and it turned out to be a great game, and let's take a look at the highlights. Stanford versus Kentucky.
And we're right here, it's 37-32 at halftime. Here you see them pump past Naj Muhammad is good with the inside turnaround. That puts Kentucky up by 6. Kentucky cuts lead to 6. Then we see, oh boy, Allen Edwards with the drive here. Kentucky's down by 4. Justin, take it over.
Okay, then down low, Padgett puts it in, and they're up by 1. And Kentucky but Stanford would come back.
Yes, you see right here the madman, Mag Dog with the putback after the Arthur Lee miss, and his team is really geek. What do you have to say about this, Rob?
Oh my God, look at Madsen. One hand, he goes up, gets hacked, and has the strength and the presence to put it in. And right here we see one of Shepard's many threes coming again off the same play on the opposite side, a double screen up top, baby. That's an open 3 for Padgett. This guy's waited, Shepard, he's waited a long time for this.
All right, Kelly, and what happens here?
Arthur Lee, what more can you say? A 3 to tie the game, and it looks like we're going to extra frame. But in the extra frame, Jeff Shepard was huge in this game with the drive to the hole. Then inside to Naz Muhammad. He had a big second half. He puts Kentucky up by 5. But then inside, Jared Collins with the block by Naz Muhammad, but Jared Collins again, and the foul. But unfortunately, he would miss the free throw. Then you see right here, last play, Jeff Shepard, one more 3. Does this kid ever miss in the clutch, Justin?
No, he really doesn't.
And Kentucky moves on with the 86-85 win over the Cardinal and on to the Final Four and on to the championship game.
And as you said, it was a great game. Arthur Lee and Stanford continue to prove that, they just never miss in the last minute of the game. A great game on both ends. Stanford will be back next year. Kentucky, no one thought they'd be here this year. Rob, can you say enough about the job Tubby Smith's done?
Tubby Smith, he went into a situation where his life was actually threatened, A lot of the columnists in Kentucky advised him not to take the job just because of the racial tension and everything with him becoming a coach. And now he's got people who hate, black people loving him because he's winning. So if Tubby wins this national championship, whoa, he may actually convert some people to be not racist anymore.
Yeah, Tubby Smith did take over a tough situation, but they seem to have accepted him now. And Kelly, Kentucky without any stars, who would have thought it?
No, really, I wouldn't have thought it either, Justin. Kentucky had a great year. They didn't have the superstars they've had in the past, like the Ron Mercers, the Derek Andersons, or even the Anton Walkers. But Kentucky just had about 5-6 people that just went out there, got consistent play, double figures, and just put together a run, and they're back in the championship game for the 3rd straight year.
And of course, Kentucky would move on, but the question would be, who would they play? Would they play the favored North Carolina Tar Heels, the juggernaut all year that was #1 for a good part of the year? Or would they face the suddenly hot Utah Runnin' Utes? That's right, the Runnin' Utes are in the Final Four, and this was the second game of the day, and let's take a look at the highlights. A lot of people liked Carolina in this one, but Utah came out hot. Andre Miller's had a great tournament. Here he finds Drew Hansen, hits the three, and the Utes are off and running. Then Michael Goliak hit the three. It's 12 for Utah. Rick Majerus says, extra space for you, Goliak. Then Andre Miller finds another open three. This is Drew Hansen hitting a three. Antoine Jameson, the player there, keeps it close, but still, Carolina's down by 12. Andre Miller, the best rebounding guard in the country, showing why he's been the player of the tournament. The putback, Utah's up by 13 at the half, but Carolina would make a run. They're not #1 for nothing. Vince Carter hits the tough turnaround. And here come the Tar Heels. Vince Carter says, let's get it going, guys. And indeed they do on the 4-on-3, finding Alamo the tough lane, and suddenly it's down to an 11-point game. Carolina keeps coming. The bench says we got to get it below double digits. And Shammond Williams, well, he had another tough game, 2 of 12. But Vince Carter, how many times have we seen this over his career? Above the rim, suddenly the lead's below 10 with 11 minutes to go, and the Carolina bench likes what they see. But they wouldn't like this. Actually, they would. This is a Vince Carter block, and the Tar Heels continue to press it. Finding Shammond, who finds the cutting Antoine Jameson for the tough land. Once again, it's back down to 9. Now, Utah didn't win to go 30-3 for nothing. And here they have their own All-American fans. They go to Michael Goliak for another strong game. A good left-hand shot, and Utah's back up by 11, and Guthrie says, we got to make our run here. And Vince Carter says, Coach, no problem, I'll just hit a 3. And he does, and he cuts it to 6. They would get it down to 3, but who else finishes them off but Andre Miller, the hoop and the harm. They're up by 6 with a minute and a half to go, and that would be it. As Utah moves on, beating North Carolina by 7 points. The Utes are into the championship game tonight to face the Kentucky Wildcats in a final nobody thought was possible. Maybe last year. And, you know, Rob, you talk about the coaching job that Tubby Smith's done. Does anyone do a better job than Rick Majerus?
Rick Majerus. You give this guy a couple days, he'll find a way to beat the Bulls. I really think so. Rick Majerus, what more can you say? He's a great coach, great X's and O's, and he really preaches and teaches defense. And his guys, you can see, they're really intense. And the way they get after the boards is unbelievable. I mean, they have like a small zone set up on the defensive backboard. I mean, 5 of their guys and no white shirts. That's how most of the game was. You just kept hoping that UNC would make a run, but they never made a run. I really think this game was lost in maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes when it was 12-2.
Definitely. Kelly, I mean, Carolina, you know, this was their 2nd straight Final Four trip. Last year, a very similar situation. They come out against an Arizona team many people would think they would beat. They didn't do it. You would think they would kind of let the fire, but as Rob said, Utah came out, you know, they came out like the ones with something to prove.
Utah definitely has something to prove in this game. I'm sure during the week that all the hype was Carolina's just going to crush Utah, Carolina's just going to crush Utah. Well, apparently Carolina didn't come to play, and as such, they're back in Chapel Hill right now, and the Utes are still in San Antonio. I don't know what to say more about the Tar Heels. I was just disgusted. Utah played great. Andre Miller, by far, just did like Miles Simon did last year, definitely increased his draft stock, and he comes back next year.
And certainly, you know, if anyone doesn't think Utah's for real now, if you beat Arizona and North Carolina, and don't fool yourselves, they beat Carolina solidly. Carolina made this game look a lot closer than it was. Utah led this game throughout by double digits. Carolina made a late run late because they are a great team. But as we said, if Kentucky does take Utah lightly tonight. Now remember, Kentucky has beat Utah 3 of the past 5 years. This is a different Utah team, and if Kentucky does not come to play early, Utah will put it on Kentucky early. And Utah's a very difficult team to come back against. They're a very disciplined half-court team. They create great second shots. They pound the boards. They don't make mistakes. You got to beat them. They won't beat themselves. And Kentucky, and certainly, Rob, if Kentucky's going to have any chance, they better stop the guy we're going to see right here, Andre Miller, who's having a phenomenal tournament.
That's right. This guy is from Los Angeles. Came out to Utah. No one thought he would go there. But as you can see, he's a great disher and penetrator. Also, he's very strong down low. He can rebound with the big fellas and take it back up. I mean, this guy, look at here on Jameson, the crossover. That might have been a carry, but so anyway, the strong finish, like I said before, this guy, what more can you say? He has physical strength. He can jump. He can run. He can dribble. He can do it all for Utah.
Yeah, and he is certainly doing it all. He was regarded as a good player, but certainly he's turned into the best player of the tournament. Kelly, you know, Kentucky has had success with Miller in the past. 2 straight years they've shut him down. But my question to you is, I mean, if you're Kentucky, can you stop this guy? And do you press this guy?
Yes, you do. Kentucky's object is to keep the ball out of Andre Miller's hands as much as possible. We will see the Kentucky press once again. They have to, as long as they keep the ball out of Andre Miller's hands, the better the chances are for the Wildcats to win this game.
Yeah, now, of course, Kentucky's been there 2 straight years, so they will not be phased at all by the Utah Utes and their up-and-coming challenge. Kentucky 2 years ago, of course, won the national championship, beat Syracuse pretty easily. Then last year, Arizona beat them in a classic game. Miles Simon took over the game. But Kentucky has one guy, of course, who is leading their charge again this year, a guy who's familiar with national championships. As we take a look at the highlights here, Jeff Shepard. You didn't see him last year, but he's back again, and he can certainly shoot the 3. He loves the top of the key spot. As you see right here, he can hit clutch shots all day. Stanford found that out. And he can also drop here late in the game, putting it down low, scoring inside. And when he drives inside, that opens up his favorite shot, the top of the key jumper. And if you're Utah, you got to get out on this guy, because if you give Jeff Shepard open shots, he'll burn you all day long. Rob, we saw it against Stanford. You got to make Shepard beat you, I think, with the drive.
I think so, too. That's exactly it. But you run into a twofold situation there. I mean, he drives and he penetrates and dishes better than some guards. You know, he gets down in the lane and he dumps it off to Muhammad, and what are you left with? A dunk. So you have to make him put it on the floor. That's probably the weakest part of his game. Not saying that it's weak, but if you give him open jumpers all day, he'll nail them.
Yeah, I agree. Kelly, Kentucky, we talk about, obviously, Andre Miller, the best point guard in the tournament, the best player in the tournament. Kentucky's got a point guard who, when he's on, makes this team almost impossible to beat. But he's got to bring his A game tonight, I think, if Kentucky has any chance.
You're right about that. He can't have them free throw misses again. Wayne Turner definitely, and Allen Edwards, but Wayne Turner definitely has to be able to hit the clutch free throws. He's got to be able to drive. He's got to be able to penetrate. He's got to be able to get the ball to his teammates. As long as he gets the ball to his teammates, Kentucky can hopefully and will win.
And a fascinating matchup in the middle, of course, Nazir Muhammad, probably Kentucky's best player, some would say, against the guy who's probably the most consistent player all year. Miller's been the best in the tournament. But Michael Doliak is, of course, the post-up presence and the guy who gets a lot of rebounds and makes it very difficult to go to the lane against Utah.
That's right. With that help defense, Utah, even when they're playing man, they look like they're in zone. They help out beautifully, and with Doliak back there to erase any mistakes, they just do a great job defensively. What more can you say? And you know, Muhammad.
Yeah, say more.
Muhammad does a great job. He's really improved his offensive skills, and that's made him a better player, a better threat for Kentucky, and Kentucky as a whole, a better team.
Now, Utah is getting the respect. A lot of people do feel they'll win tonight, despite the fact they're seated lower. And of course, we talk about Michael Doliak and Andre Miller as the key players in this team. But Kelly, it's the role players on their team don't get a lot of publicity, but they're very important to the Utah attack with their depth.
Yes, they are. And if you don't believe me, ask Carolina. They definitely need another big games out of Brenton Jansen and Drew Henson. If you see early in the game, they just were crushing Carolina from the three-point line. Also, Hano Matola, a big man on the inside, he'll help take away some of the pressure that Doliak will be facing from McGlure and Muhammad. But Utah definitely has a lot of role players to fit perfectly in with this team.
Yeah, I mean, we said at the beginning of the tournament, I mean, we don't really know anything. I'm dead serious. We all had Utah losing in the second round. But team speed, I guess, maybe a little overrated. Stanford didn't have it either. They almost ended up in the final. Could you have imagined a Utah-Stanford final?
Yeah.
I would have boycotted. I would not have watched that game. I would have boycotted.
Justin, I got one question. What are Keith Van Horn and Brevin Knight saying to themselves right now?
Well, Keith Van Horn really feels bad because, I mean, they're going to have to win the national championship without it. Utah is slow, though. I mean, we've watched this tournament, and there's really nothing you can say to contradict that. They don't have a lot of team speed, but they're really just pounding people. They're big. They're not allowing second-chance points. As we said, they don't beat themselves. And Kentucky, you know, they didn't play great against Stanford. Stanford was up by 10. Rob, Kentucky also has some role players. The guys I'm thinking of are the two unsung heroes in their team, Hashimu Evans and Allen Edwards.
Allen Edwards does a great job off the bench. This guy went from a All-American out of high school to now he's coming off the bench as a six-man. He lost his mom a couple years ago, but he's a veteran, and he's been in this predicament before, so he'll know how to handle himself tonight.
All right, yeah, and another player for Kentucky who's great. You look at the power. I mean, you look at the power forward. A very interesting situation here, Kelly. Rick Majerus coached Scott Padgett on the World University Games, and you know, Padgett, and they had a huge explosion. You know, they didn't get along. And now tonight, Scott Padgett gets his chance at redemption if he can take it and deny Rick Majerus his championship.
And I think as any player would, they would love to do that. Scott Padgett, he sat out the year that he took a academic leave from the Kentucky team the year they won the national championship, so he didn't get to celebrate on the glorious of that team. But I think Padgett has got his mind focused. He's got his game face on, and I think he's ready to play against Rick Majerus. And I don't know about you, but anytime you're on the court and you have that just edge to just really beat your opponent into the ground, you just want to do that Mateen Cleave's little dagger in the heart.
All right, now certainly one of the factors which figures to help Kentucky tonight is their experience. Kentucky has been there 2 straight years. They won it, we said a couple years ago. Utah also, you know, they will say that the past couple losses to Kentucky hasn't affected them, but I really think it has. If Kentucky can get ahead early tonight, I think that will really hurt the psyche of Utah. So it's really up to Utah, you know, to come out with a lot of fire, take it to Kentucky early, and really almost assure themselves that what happened in 1997 and 1996 isn't going to happen this year. And I mean, I think they have the players to do it. I really feel Andre Miller, Michael Doliak, they have the veterans. I think for once, I think in the past when you looked at these teams, it was Kentucky which always had the star players. Ron Mercer, Antoine Walker. Really only Utah had was Van Horn. Sure they had Miller, sure they had Doliak, but those guys were really role players back then. Now I think there's no question. Tonight the best player on the floor is wearing the Utah uniform. And as we said, if Andre Miller plays good, Rob, they have a great chance to win.
Yes, they do, Justin. Like you said before, it's very hard to come back against Utah. They don't make any mistakes. They don't give up many second chance points. I really like to see that stat. But they really don't give you a second chance to make a shot. And if you get a good shot, you have to make it because you won't get a good one next time down. So Andre Miller runs this team, but like Kelly said before, you have to trap him and get the ball out of his hands if Kentucky wants to win.
All right, guys, we broke it down. Now let's talk about who's going to win the game. Kelly, Utah, Kentucky, tonight, who's the national champion?
My heart tells me Utah, my head tells me Kentucky, and I'm going to go with my head on this one. This will be the third straight year I've cheered for the Wildcats going into the national championship. If Utah wins, I won't be mad. Rick Majerus, I'll be happy for him. Miller's played great. And Salt Lake City definitely needs something to cheer about after that Utah Jazz thing in the finals last year. But go Wildcats.
All right, Rob, Utah or Kentucky, and why?
I think there's a couple of keys to this game, Justin. Tempo is number one. If they get up into a high-scoring 90-point game up and down the court, Kentucky will win. Number two, Kentucky has to shoot really well from the perimeter. As you see, that was North Carolina's downfall. In the whole first half, they didn't hit anything outside of the paint. So outside shooting is very important. And number three, I think, is going to come down to coaching. Rick Majerus is a great coach. Also, Tubby has shown us that he's a great coach also. And I think the thing is going to be if Utah comes out smoking and Kentucky is slow coming out the gate, Tubby cannot be afraid to take those timeouts and slow that tempo down. I mean, slow that momentum down. You know, I think that was the problem Guthridge had with UNC losing the other night. They got down by 10 points early on, 12-2, and they couldn't ever come back from that 10-point deficit. So, considering all of that,
Let the man speak his mind.
I think I'm going to go with Kentucky. I just think that they're not going to shoot as bad as UNC has. They rely on their perimeter game pretty much, so they'll be ready to shoot and looking to shoot. One of the big problems with UNC, they were hesitant to take the outside shot. So, no hesitance from Kentucky. They win, but in a really good game, one of the best games we've seen in a while. Might rival last year's game.
I agree. This is going to be a great game tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I think, though, I'm going to disagree. I like Utah because the reasons is this. The NCAA tournament is always about good point guard play. Kentucky has had that sporadically. Wayne Turner's had some great games, but Andre Miller's been the best player in this tournament by far. He'll control the tempo tonight and give Utah the advantage. If Kentucky presses them, we'll see him do what he did to Arkansas's press, what he did to Arizona's press. He'll break the pressure, get it to the big guys, or take it all the way. That's an advantage for Utah. Second of all, when you like to run, the key to running is you got to get rebounds. If you don't get rebounds, you can't throw the outlet passes. Utah's a very good rebounding team, both offensively and defensively. Look for them to control the boards, take away Kentucky's ability to run, turn this into more of a half-court game. Now, as we said, in the past years, if you're saying this to yourself, well, Utah had this last year, so why did they win? Well, the other reason is this. Kentucky's not as good a perimeter shooting team as they have been in the past. They do have Jeff Shepard, but Wayne Turner's not really a shooter. Allen Edwards shoots a little. Heshimu Evans is more of a slasher. I think Kentucky cannot knock down the threes more consistently than they did in the first couple games of this tournament. I think that's an advantage for Utah. And the final reason I like Utah, I just love Rick Majerus. I just think he's been the best coach, done one of the best coaching jobs we've seen in recent tournament history. I think he'll have one more master game plan up his sleeves. I think Utah wins by 2 points tonight in overtime. Now, before we close up, there's one concerning thing which happened in college basketball recently that I want to talk about. Recently, out of all schools, Northwestern, there was a point-shaving scandal. And this is a situation which you would never expect to have in a school like Northwestern. It's a school which you think academics, you think they'll never get involved in something like this. And Kelly, what this showed is really no school is immune from this.
I guess I have to agree with you on that, Justin. If Northwestern can get indicted on point-shaving charges, it's happened to Fresno, it's happened to UNLV. Next thing is going to happen to, a little school out of South Carolina, like South Carolina State University. I don't know. College basketball has really been through a lot this year, but I hope this scandal won't take away from it. It's really been a great game.
I mean, Rob, when something like this happens, this is the biggest nightmare for a program, especially for a coach, when he doesn't know about it. I mean, Northwestern, of all schools that need to shave points, why Northwestern? When even they don't try, it looks like they're shaving points. But, I mean, how does an athletic program deal with something like this?
You just have to go to your players, educate them. It's very hard to compete with the dollars out there. There's so much money going around, sneakers, point shaving, everything. So there's a lot of temptation. You just have to really, I guess, scout your players better and see that they're good people and are not going to fall for those types of things.
And also one other concerning thing, which I think is just ridiculous. Recently, some Texas players went and complained about Tommy Penders, who's done a great job at Texas. Texas is a football school. They have no basketball tradition. Tommy Penders went in there from Rhode Island and made them a perennial NCAA tournament team, a team which no one wanted to play in the tournament. They had a bad year, and now all his players are complaining. And there's talk he might get fired. If Texas fires Tommy Penders, they should just drop basketball. Texas is not a good basketball program. They're all stuck up there. They think they're better than they are. Texas has no tradition. Tommy Penders has done a great job there. And if they fire Tommy Penders, I hope they win no games personally. And now it's time for the last segment, the bottom line. Kelly, you go first.
Oh, well. Off of Justin's little segment about the point shaving, I want to talk about how the state of college basketball has been this year. People might disagree with me, but I think it's been great. This tournament proves that anything can happen from the moment that Bryce Drew hit the big three to beat Mississippi to tonight's game. College basketball has been fun. I'm going to miss it. And just remember, 7 months to Midnight Madness.
But that's NIT Midnight Madness. All right, Robert, what about your bottom line?
My bottom line, I guess, is also along lines of the NCAA tournament. I'm just upset. I'm mad. I'm pissed off that everyone screwed up my pool. Everyone. Mississippi, TCU, Clemson, Duke, Michigan. What were you guys thinking? These little schools can play. They have the players. They watch the same NBA highlights you do. They go to the same camps you guys do. So what made you think they couldn't play? Well, anyway, I just think this shows that college basketball, the level of college basketball on the whole is really rising. When the crop is there's so many good players to choose from these days that all programs are good.
All right, what about this? Tom doesn't want Steve. Tom gets rid of Steve. Tom likes Brian, but he doesn't like him for the whole year. But Brian likes Tom, and Brian wants to stay. But Robert doesn't like Brian at the beginning of the year, and Robert wants to go. Robert decides to like Brian. He wants to stay, or does he? Tom brings back Brian. Robert decides, no, I don't want to stay. Robert leaves. Lou decides he might want to leave too. But Lou likes Brian, and Lou decides to stay. Brian likes it so much, he gets to stay. What is that, a soap opera? A Fox series? It should be. No, that was the University of Michigan basketball season. It was certainly a very eventful season. It was certainly a season which had a lot of, great stories, and it definitely kept us on our toes. It would look depressing at times. It looked like we were going to the NIT at times. But it was definitely one of the most enjoyable seasons that I had a chance to cover, especially when I look at what we may have to cover next year. But, it's been a great season. And before we go, Kelly and I would like to thank some of our staff.
I want to thank our producers, our cameraman, Kevin Jones, Luke Forrest, David McMahon, Greg Stern, Jared Stillwater, Jared Drinkwater, and everybody else who's been associated with the program this year. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And we'd especially like to thank the old E-board here at WOLV. Dave McMahon has done a great job in his 2 years here. We really thank you a lot.
What more can you say?
And definitely, what more can you say about this year's battle to the Alamo? the final game, and we'll be back with you next November. For now, I'm Justin Angelo. He's Rob Hunter. He's Kelly Russell. Take it easy, guys.
See you, WOLV.
What more can I say? We living. That's what we got. We got it good. And since you understood, we